Tales of Weyhak'duram, Nova Ofe Weyhak'duram. Volume 1, Rise of the Ancients, by Linus Burr. Read to you by the author. Acknowledgements. Writing this story has been an amazing experience for me, and I cannot thank those who have helped me enough. But I would like to acknowledge a few of the people who have inspired and helped me greatly along the way. First and foremost is my family. Thank you for being so supportive and helpful. I could never have done this without you, especially people like my grandpa, who certainly paved the way of writing books so that I might follow. Thank you so much to my mom for reading and editing and helping me out so much. Also, a special thanks to my dad, who always stayed caught up with my story and was always so supportive. I would also like to thank all of my friends who helped me to keep my sanity and continue to make me laugh. I must, of course, give special acknowledgement to my friend Emma, who has been the most supportive friend one could have when it comes to a project like this. Thank you, Emma, for doing my beautiful cover art, and thanks for being an incredibly supportive friend. Part 1. A Tale of Creation and Trial. Dawtal Hak. Beginnings. In the beginning, there was only earth, pure solid earth of the most basic kind. From this earth sprouted the saplings of imagination, beautiful creatures of thought and time. And they thrived, for these saplings had the power of creation, Kanilka, and with it they planted new seeds in the fresh earth, and they grew the forests of the world. And from their palms flowed the waters of life and death, for the saplings had also the power to destroy. And they created life, birds, flowers, and squirrels. And the saplings were pleased. They shaped the earth into a wide land of great expanse. And they journeyed to the edges of their land, and outside it they saw nothing. And so each placed their palms outward and allowed the waters of life to flow out of their hands and into the nothingness. And they created the seas. To the east, west, and south they lay, for to the north the children of the earth made more land. And it is said that in that direction they continued to create, and the land continues forever in that direction, for no man has ever seen the waters of the north and returned to tell the tale. In the ancient tales they are known as the White Waters, the unseen sea beyond the reach of time, and it is thought to be beautiful, for there, if it indeed exists, the saplings focus their most delicate work. Gentle lapping waters on a beach of soft earth where it is always sunset, and the rays of the fading sun shine bright across the pale waters and land on the green hills of Alakdur, bathing them in red, orange, and yellow light. And it is said in the legends that if one so chose they could board a boat of pale wood from the very palms of the saplings of imagination, and the boat would glide across the calm waters towards the clear, bright horizon and straight on towards the sun. And the boat, wreathed in light, would go on over the horizon and into imagination. And all was at peace, until one day, at the rising of the sun, one of the saplings grew angry, for he disliked the land that they had made, and he argued that without darkness the light would not be appreciated, and so from his palms flowed the waters of death. Over the ground they flowed, and as they touched the creatures of the world, death took them, and from this death the dark sapling formed a being of pure darkness. Its skin and limbs were made of death. It had no eyes, and its gaping maw was full of the blood of the earth. And the demon ate the trees and the animals, and with each life it took, it grew larger. And the other saplings cried out, and together they pulled up mountains, blocking the monster's path, but the demon simply ate the mountains, for he was now the size of the tallest peaks of the earth. And the saplings were terrified. Together they put out their palms, and the waters of life flowed from them, and they created a being of their own. Bright and beautiful it was, and its eyes shone of hope and beauty, and it was larger than the demon. The dark sapling was enraged, and he directed his demon towards the light creature, and the demon charged, and the wind blew across the earth in a great gust, and from the eyes of the light being came a blinding white light, and it shone at the demon, stopping it and holding its gaze. And the black creature cowered and shrunk, diminishing in size, and when the light ceased, the demon dove, burrowing deep into the earth, never to be seen for an age. And the dark sapling was banished, never to return to the land of Weyhak'duram. And the saplings of light faded, some into the air, others turned into trees, but all faded into the shield of light, guard of the universe, where the sun shines bright upon the world of men, who were the last creation of the children of the earth before their departure, and the world was at peace. Slowly over the years, the land of Weyhak'duram grew, and the men learned of fire and the art of hunting. But the men divided. The stronger peoples called themselves the Weimarians, and they claimed all the land in the west of the world, and they named it the territory of Weimar. The other men, the silent and swift hunters of the world, did not complain, and they claimed the land by the eastern sea, and called it Calliope. And while Weimar was larger and covered much land, Calliope was beautiful and vibrant. There the birdsong rang out the clearer, and in the winter the small hedgehogs could be seen burrowing tunnels by the banks of the bright woods, as a cool breeze blew across the countryside and a ray of sunlight fell upon the snow-covered valley of Mur in the early morning. And the sea was a bright blue, energetic, life-filled water during the summer, with soft sandy beaches and gentle lapping waves. And the Calliopians named it Yuma Aquatai, meaning the blue waters. And the people thrived, growing and hunting and building. And they would sit by the mouth of the great Zandar River and watch the fiercely rushing water go streaming out into the blue sea. And soon the Calliopians founded their capital city of Callio, about 5 leagues from the ocean. In the west, the great city of Duman was built and deemed the capital of Weimar. And the Weimarians built the harbor of Hudun in the south, past the southern woods, and they tamed the wild horses on the plain of Jena, and to this day the city of Puka and the shores of Walt Lake keep up a great store of horses and riders who are sometimes sent carrying messages to Calliope. In time, the men learned of the art of sailing, and they began building armies and fleets of ships. And in the 68th year of the Second Age, war broke out between Calliope and Weimar. The Weimarians proved stronger with larger armies, and the Calliopian lands were greatly devastated until a treaty was signed to resolve the conflict. And the Weimarians helped to rebuild their society. But it was in the 73rd year that the great gates were built in the land of Calliope. For the expanse of the bright woods had grown and acted as a wall for Calliope, except at its very north and southmost points. And here were built the great gates of Calliope, which blocked all passage into the land unless one passed through the woods or sailed in from the sea. And although the woods were beautiful, they were dense, and the men of the land alone could find their way through the sunlit forest. The continent of Weyhak'duram was split in two by the mighty Zandar River, flowing north from the ocean of Lamad in the south. It turns east as it passes the plain of Jena, and as it passes directly south of Calliope's south gate, it pours out into a great delta between rocky lands and into the Yuma Aquatai. And this smaller portion of land cut off by the river was named Vinok by the peoples of Weyhak'duram. Vinok, meaning bad in the ancient tongue, for the land opposite the river was dwarfed by a great, dark, foreboding mountain range, which came to be known as the Mountains of Vinak'dur, the Mountains of Evil, and its highest peak, Mount Mixes. For rarely had the peoples of Weyhak'duram crossed the great river, for this alone was extremely treacherous, and when they did, no one but those in the ancient legends ever dared to venture over the evil mountains, and even those in the legends never returned to tell the tale, so little was known of the evil land of Vinok. In the year 142 of the Second Age, on March 43rd by their reasoning, a Weimarian guard from Weydun sat at his post at the fort of Gwyneth, just south of the southern woods. There was always a host of 20 to 30 men from Puka, some from Weydun, who were positioned out here to keep a watch on the surround. It was this man's turn currently to keep watch on the tower top while the others took their rest. It was twilight. The gray shadows crept from the west, where a dazzling purple and orange light lay just above the horizon. Presently the light faded, and the sky became a dull grayish haze. A chill wind blew from the east, and the guard wrapped his cloak more tightly about himself. Looking off towards the south, he could just make out the paler gray under the horizon where he knew the ocean lay. The shadows grew darker, slinking and creeping over the ground. Looking over the rails of the guard-post tower, the guard followed the shadows with his eyes over the river until they came to rest upon the faint outline of the mountains of Vinak'dur, shooting jaggedly up from the barren earth beneath them. He shuddered as another strong gust of wind came from that direction. He turned his head away, back towards the west, for he hated the sight of those accursed peaks. But as he did so, just at the very corner of his eye, he caught the tiniest flicker of movement in the now almost black land. Turning back, he strained his eyes out over the river. He could see nothing. South of the mountains there was a great expanse of open land between the last peak and the seashore, and it was in this direction that the guard thought he had seen something. Once again he strained his eyes through the night. In the deep haze he was sure he saw something, some small obstruction of his view, like another small hill had been raised up suddenly out of the ground. But this was no hill. The guard suddenly realized how tired he was, and that he might fall asleep soon if he was not relieved of duty. Climbing out of the tower, he passed the guard for the next hour, who took the lantern and began to ascend into the tower. The first guard sighed and went to bed, and silently a small fleet of boats crossed the river from the east. Baroom! 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 Every guard in the fortress of Gwynedd was instantly awake. The sounding of the horn was a clear ringing in the air, calling out over field, meadow, and wood. Baroom! The guards rushed to their posts, some exiting the fort through its great oak wood double doors, some ascending the guard tower where the horn originated. It was hardly sunrise as the previous night's guard climbed back into the tower. He met the hornblower, shouting, "What's going on?" The hornblower looked at him, and without a word he pointed silently across the Xandar and towards the land of Weyhak'duram. Every guard in the tower or on the ground was stricken dumb. Between the last height of the evil mountains and the shore of the sea there stretched a great black expanse. A great wall it appeared in the early morning light. If wall indeed it was tremendous, reaching almost the height of the lesser mountains, and it appeared to be made of solid metal, iron and metal of craft unknown to the people of Weimar. Whatever it was, it had not been there the previous day. It had been built in a single night. As many of the guards began to recover from their shock, several began calling orders. "Quickly, send out riders to Duman," he said. 3 men ran off to the small stable the fort had. They had only a supply of about 5 horses, none of which were particularly strong or hardy. Nonetheless, the 3 riders hopped into their stirrups and prepared to ride the long road to the capital. Suddenly, from out of the trees, arrows flew, a great volley aimed from many bows. Several found their mark in the tower, and the guards toppled from their posts, including the guard from the previous night. The 3 riders quickly tried to escape into the woods. They had not made it far when an arrow struck one rider and he fell. The other 2, realizing the threat was in the woods with them, veered west, attempting to take the seaside path. But just as they reached the border of the woods, a knife flew through the air and struck the second rider. As the last rider flew out of the trees, he looked back but could see nothing. The forest was dark. He crossed onto the seaside path and headed north. It would be a long road to Duman, and now the rider must make it alone. But he would reach Duman and bring the news to the city and all of Weimar nonetheless.